the fuck is that guy?
Oops. Welcome in, everybody, to a Wednesday night edition of the Joe Quill Show. And I have to update that for you guys later tonight so we can have that ready to go for tomorrow night's show. But welcome in here to Joe Quill Show on this Wednesday night. And it may be an abbreviated edition. It may not be, but we will get to it anyway. So you see everything going on at the bottom of the screen there. Got a lot to talk about here. Got a lot of updates from LA where um, they do have that outbreak, fire outbreak in the LA metro area. Scary stuff. Even coworkers, even coworkers at my job at Redacted Company are affected in some way, shape, or form, family wise. So, thoughts and prayers out there, and hope everybody stays safe out there in California, in the LA area. Got a lot of news in regards to that as well. So that affects the sports world because we are a sports show, but we aren't afraid to dip our hand into some of the other things around the world as well. So we'll get into that here. Um, we'll get into um, Travis Kelce talking about um, Kansas City basically not starting anybody last week. Bill Belichick, why and why not he could end up in the NFL. I'll give you thoughts on that. James Franklin was talking smack today at the press conference before the Orange Bowl, or is it the Subway Bowl presented by Jared from Subway? Because you have Notre Dame with the priests and all that, and then you got Penn State who enabled Jerry Sandusky. But it is what it is. But anyways, hope everybody is doing well out there. Um, we got a first time chatter here. Silicon Valley girl, welcome in. She is watching on Twitch, and she is asking, who do I like between Notre Dame and Penn State? That I was going to give out at the end of the show. Um, but the one thing I will tell people that have watched this show, uh, people that know me know that I am the number one detractor of Penn State athletics after the whole Jerry Sandusky thing. However, I'm smart enough to pick Penn State when they're going to win and pick against them when I feel like they're going to lose. So when it comes to me being here with you guys every Monday through Thursday night, and when I make my picks, I will make my picks for you guys in an unbiased opinion. And I will tell you as well, because I am a Philly sports fan, and if you heard the very beginning of the show, I am not afraid of picking against my Eagles. And the Eagles game will be one of my selections on tomorrow night's show here on the Joe Quill Show. Now, I did mention that I am Monday through Thursday, uh, part of Bleacher Brothers Sports Network. Monday through Thursday, I have to update this. Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday will be at 9 p.m. Wednesdays will be at 10 p.m. So keep an eye out for that. So, and I don't know why my monitoring is crap right now, but Silicon Valley girl, I do welcome you to the show here. My name is Joe Quills. I am a streamer and sports writer with Bleacher Brothers. Um, I do this show to focus on all sports, and I also write horse racing for Bleacher Brothers. I give my pick. I give my picks every day, and there we go. As everything's going crazy right now, but um, but yeah. So you know what? Let's break. Since Valley Girl is here, you know what? Let's give that pick now. And those that are waiting, I will recap it later on. So, for those that are watching, and especially Silicon Valley Girl, um, I do a segment called the Philly Fade. And basically, it's just because of alliteration that I call it the Philly Fade. And I admit, um, and let me pull out my story here because I print my stories up. Um, I am I try to keep track of everything as much as I can, even though in my house, in my apartment here, the number one rule that I have, and just like just like if you were to go into somebody's car, their rules, well, my house, my rules. If I go into a friend's house and they have Penn State on, I'm not going to tell them turn Penn State off because I don't watch Penn State football because everything that happened a few years ago with the Jerry Sandusky stuff. Their house, their rules. Just like in my house, I, I don't I don't allow Penn State athletics on my TV, but I still keep track of things because I make picks like I will be in a few moments. So, so I am pulling up the odds here, and um, the one thing I will say to everybody that is watching right now, the name is because of alliteration more than anything else. Because you know you if you don't like somebody's picks, you fade them. And me personally, um, for those that have watched this show, even after the fact, because of the fact that I am, I make my picks every week. And thank you for following Silicon Valley Girl. Welcome to the channel. Um, I just think that if you're going to, I still have to keep track of everything because of the fact that, even though my house, my rules, that sort of thing, you know, I'm just a believer, you know, that I still need to keep track of it, even though it won't be on my TV screen. Um, but I admit that accidentally sometimes ends up on my TV because I'm trying to find a different game and it comes on there. Um, but I do want to mention one thing here before I make that pick. Jerry Sandusky, Jesus Christ. Let me give myself one of those because I'm a dope. Let's try this again. James Franklin, the head coach at Penn State, they were going through the formality of the press conference before the Orange Bowl game tomorrow night. Um, while he was discussing the opportunity that Penn State awaits them, the opportunity that awaits them tomorrow in the college football playoff, James Franklin said that the showdown against Notre Dame is about representing our schools and conferences. Why is that? Notre Dame's an independent. And they stress that they are going to be an independent and they will gladly play that fourth playoff game with the way that this format is right now because they would not get an automatic bid as a conference champion because they don't play in a conference. Now, after he said that, Franklin caught himself in with Marcus Freeman, the Notre Dame coach, sitting there just to his right, said, or our conference, excuse me. So, but James Franklin did had some good points here when it came to the playoffs in general, because when it comes to the Power Four conferences, which are the Big Ten, Big 12, SEC, and ACC, um, you do have that the SEC and the ACC play 8 conference games, and then the two winners, the top 2 teams, play in the conference championship game. In the Big Ten and the Big 12, they play 9, and the top 2 teams play a conference championship game, which Penn State played against Oregon, and Penn State is still around, and Oregon, uh, they ended up being my banner pick on my Facebook page. But um, but Nittany Lions reached the Big Ten championship game after playing 9 games. Notre Dame, they play a couple of games against the ACC every year. I think it's 5 because they have an agreement with the ACC that they would play 5 ACC schools every year because of the fact that the rest of their sports are in the ACC. Now, all the other sports, basketball, baseball, uh, hockey's in a different sport, in a different concert, in a different conference because ACC doesn't sponsor hockey. But all the major sports if the ACC sponsors a certain sport and the ACC and Notre Dame has a team, they will play in the ACC. But they want to stay independent as long as they can, and they're still there in 2025 being an independent. And it's all they have the agreement that they'll play in conferences in other sports, which they always have done. It's just that in football, they are staunchly independent. Think of him as Bernie Sanders. Even though Bernie Sanders does lean to the left on a lot of issues and he caucuses with the Democrats in the Senate, he is technically an independent. So think of it that way if you are more of a political person than you are a sports person. So, and one rule that I do have is we don't talk about politics here. So, you know, consider it breaking the rules, but in a way I'm not because I'm bringing a nice parallel there. Um, um, why did ACC at Cal and Stanford? Um, I think that they wanted to get. Well, they're both in the same market. They're in the San Francisco Bay Area market, and Cal. I think they. How many games did they win in football this year? Did they go to a bowl game? Let me double check that. No, not college basketball. No, I'm nuts. Um, um, Well, Cal went 6-7. They did go to a bowl game, but they were 2-6 in conference. Stanford was 3-9, 2-6 in conference. Um, and Cal lost to UNLV, which is a team that I usually tail when I give out my college football picks. Uh, I even have a UNLV sweatshirt uh, laying in the bedroom right now. But the reason why that they went there was because they were trying to find a conference, and if you remember, everybody was picking away at the old Pac-12. First, it was USC and UCLA going to the Big Ten. Then it was, and I may have the timeline a little off, but you get the idea. Utah, Colorado, Arizona, and Arizona State. They all went to the Big 12, which is a big win for the Big 12 because you turned that into Big Ten flyover area, as I called it last year or 2 years ago. You know, you don't have any contiguous states, whereas the Big 12 has a whole bunch of their states together. Then Washington and Oregon went to the Big Ten. It left Washington State and Oregon State to be independent, where they partnered with the Mountain West, where they poached the Mountain West for 5 different schools. But that left Cal and Stanford with nowhere to go, and they're trying to get money, and because it's all about money with the TV contracts, and they ended up in the ACC because basically there was nowhere else to go. Now, personally, I would have gone Mountain West, even though it's not a Power Four conference. You have to build yourself into being a Power Five, and if they had gone to the Mountain West, could they have forced Washington State and Oregon State to stay? Maybe. But in my opinion, by going to the ACC, you add a lot of flying miles going from the West Coast to Texas, where SMU is, and then going to the East Coast. But the one thing is, if I remember correctly, they don't get any TV revenue money from the ACC for like 8 or 9 years that's left on their contract with ESPN. But they will still get some residuals here and there and stuff like that. But it was more being in a power conference more than anything else, and trying to get some money out of it. And you know when you have a well, even though it's not that big, not that big of a name over the last year or two, but Clemson comes to town, you'll draw fans there. Well, now North Carolina with Bill Belichick, and I got Bill Belichick update here as well later tonight. Bill Belichick, he brings his team out to the West Coast for a football game. Well, they are going to have a full house, but in terms of TV revenue, they're not getting that, but it gives them an opportunity to play in a Power Four conference because the Big Ten didn't want them, the Big 12 didn't want them, SEC. No, the only way you get in there is if they invite you, not you applying there. So SEC is a whole different animal where they will go to, you know, I'm making something up here because it's not the case. Let's say, I don't know, New Mexico. Okay, well, we have Texas. Well, let's go to New Mexico, poach them for the Mountain West. Hey, you want to be in the SEC? Blah, blah, blah. Even though they're not going to do it, SEC does their conference different. They will come to you and say, hey, do you want to be a part of us? Whereas the other conferences, you have to apply basically for those conferences. So, but it's all about the money. And the football programs stink. Yeah. Um, the basketball programs, I don't think they're that great either. Um, I mean, it's all about football now, but when you look at the ACC, um, when you look at the ACC, Cal is 0-3 in conference, 7-7 overall. Stanford is 1-2 in conference, 9-5 on the year. But I would say it, it doesn't make sense, but ACC does have an academic standard. Um, when Cardinals came to Stanford, the stadium was packed. Yeah, and Louisville isn't really that big of a name in the ACC. I would say, even though they went 2-10, Florida State is a name. Uh, um, Clemson's a name. Um, I think Syracuse is going to be really good next year if their quarterback stays. What's his name? I forget his name. Um, I should know this because he went to my high school. Um, Kyle McCord. That's who I'm thinking of. So a lot of what they do, thank you. Yeah. And I'm embarrassed, and I should give myself another one of those because I am a St. Joe's Prep alum. Let me give myself another one of those because I'm a dope. But um, but yeah, it's all about money, and it's yeah, and they're. But I don't know what would happen if, like, let's say when the Pac-12 reemerges in 2026, they say, come back. come back to us. So, uh, okay, so it's, a sports streamer on Twitch is also from Syracuse. Oh, okay, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's all over the place. I'm from Philadelphia, and I do two shows. I do this show, and I do my horse racing show, also eligible, which is on Saturday mornings. Uh, but it's it's all about the money. And the one thing I would say, even though the ACC does have a higher educational, um, educational requirements in their conference, Stanford and Cal fits into that. And the one thing I would argue as well, also being a person that's graduated twice from Drexel University, um, the one thing is, and this happened in my I took I took 2 classes on campus, the rest of the classes I took online. Um, you know, all you have to I mean, if you really think about it in terms of academics, um, if everything's on the up and up, okay? So, I mean, we've heard stories about, tutors doing the work and stuff like that, and I'm not saying that this is happening. I don't have any information. All you gotta do is if you wanna take a test, you can take a test, you know, as soon as you get off the plane, as long as your internet's strong enough, and take whatever test you need to take, or make sure your assignment is submitted by a certain time frame. I'm sure the teacher or a professor will give you a time as well, but you know, the way things are now with technology and stuff, you can very easily just do some of the work on the plane, like type up a couple of pages of your paper if you really wanted to, or stuff like that. But I mean, even though I mean, like for example, the weather class I had at Drexel, so I can finish up my bachelor's degree. Now that was, geez, about 12, 13 years ago. Um, the tests were online, even though the class was in the class was in one of the was in one of the academic halls. And I can tell you that and just to say about taking the test online, I took the test a couple of times at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning because I was working overnights at the time. I mean, if I had a night off from work, okay, well, I'm ready to take this test. Click, click, click. Okay, I got a 96. Okay, good. I got an A. You know, so there's all kinds of things that are going on with that. So, um, but I mean, it doesn't make. I mean, the regionality of conference conferences in especially in football and especially in D1 sports, it's dead. I mean, even last week I tried to give a college basketball pick where a team was 0 and 15. They're new to the conference. They have to fly 2 hours every time they play a road game in this conference. And they ended up beating this team that was like 9-5. So it's like, but regionality is dead in college sports. No longer will you see, you know, you'll see the Pac-12 as it once was being on the West Coast and maybe trickling into the Mountain Time Zone. You won't see the Big East and the East and the Midwest, East and Central time zones because now you got them in the Pacific time zone, and the SEC, they're a bit more regionalized still, but ACC's all over the place. The Big East in college basketball, they're not even in the East anymore. They're all the way out to Omaha, Nebraska. So, but regionality is dead in sports. And going back to the football story here, you know, James Franklin. I mean, he has some points, and if my buddy Mike was here, Mike would be having me uh, going to take a urine test for drugs because once again I'm backing some of the things that he's saying here. Um, But I mean, the things he said make sense because some conferences are playing 8 games, some are playing 9. Um, you need more uniformity around college football, which I agree. Have the conferences play 8 games, and that gives you a fourth non-conference game in a 12-game schedule. Um, but it should be consistent around across college football. There's no knock on Freeman or Notre Dame, but I think everybody should be in a conference. I think everybody should play a conference championship game, or nobody should play a conference championship game. I think everybody should play the same number of conference games, which is fair. Um, he also said that the season should start a week earlier due to ease the strain of playing more games with an expanded playoff. Yeah, I kind of agree with that. Um, he also reiterated his desire to appoint a college football commissioner unaffiliated with the school or conference, like, for example, Nick Saban or former Washington Boise State coach Chris Peterson, who's now a Fox analyst, or Dave Clawson, who recently stepped down as Wake Forest coach. Um, now, um, um, just so I can get the right name, Marcus Freeman, he acknowledged that Notre Dame prides themselves on independence, which, okay, I can understand because it is I mean, even though Notre Dame has kind of gotten away from some traditions, even though they still have the golden helmets every season. They got the Navy with the gold pants, and they have the end zones at 42-degree angles where they pointed at the the shrine that's there on campus. That's why those lines are there. It's to point towards the shrine that's there. Um, but there's also non-traditional things that they're doing that, in my opinion, makes me cringe, even though I'm not really a Notre Dame fan either. Like putting the Notre Dame logo on the 50-yard line when Under Armour came and put that got their contract with Notre Dame. Notre Dame got a whole new field. They went from grass and dirt uh, to whatever kind of an astroturf field they have. Um, um, wouldn't they lose that NBC contract, Notre Dame, if they went to a conference? They would probably lose the exclusivity. Uh, one of the words that I have a hard time saying. Their exclusive rights would not be there anymore. But let's say they go to the Big Ten. Big Ten has a big contract with NBC, but it would just be that they're divvying up with other schools. So it's 6 of one, half a dozen of another. Um, but if they were to go to the Big Ten, for example, you would be playing Ohio State regularly. You would be renewing that rivalry with Michigan that they've gotten away from over the last 10, 15 years. You will play Penn State regularly. You will play USC regularly, even though you play them every year. You got games like that all the time. So, um, but they would lose. They would lose the exclusive contract that they have with NBC. But they would also, if it was the Big Ten that they went to, they would still go in there. But I think they could still have an exclusive contract with NBC. I think. Uh, well, even if it's just the short-term contract, and part of that is a few years ago when the Mountain West was either Mountain West was either CBS or Fox at the time. I think it was Fox at the time, but if I get the sports network wrong, so be it. Um, the Mountain West was playing on CBS or Fox or or maybe even NBC Sports even. Boise State had an exclusive contract with ESPN for a couple years, so they could do that as well. Have an exclusive, still have that exclusive contract, I would think, because there is past practice. But um, but I don't know how that would work. But um, but I don't even know. Does the Longhorn Network still exist? Let me check that real quick. Uh, Okay, the Longhorn Network no longer exists because that was a joint venture between um, ESPN and the University of Texas and Learfield Sports. It was operated by ESPN, but um, they closed it down when um, they went to the SEC. So, um, but July 1st, Longhorn Network was repurposed for a free school-run digital platform which carries similar team content such as coaches show, post-game conferences, blah blah blah. So so that was the only. But the thing is, with the long with University of Texas, they still had um, their games on ESPN, Fox, CBS, wherever they would end up, but they didn't have the I mean, the only games that they would have on the Longhorn Network was like if they were playing uh, Villanova, an FCS school, or they're playing Utah State, or they're playing um, Kennesaw State. Some of those bottom feeder schools like Temple. If you played one of those schools, yeah, we'll put that on the Longhorn Network. Yeah, you can have that. But the big games, like if you're playing Alabama or you're playing Oklahoma or you're playing Kansas State for first place in the conference, oh, we got to have that on ESPN or ESPN2, or if 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 Fox picks up that game, something like that. But for the most part, the contracts are set in stone by the conference. That's the reason why the Longhorn Networks doesn't exist anymore in its original form. But when it comes to um, uh, Notre Dame, they ended their season November 30th. They knew they were getting into playoffs, so they did not play again until December 20th. So they basically had an extra week off, whereas Penn State had the extra game. So, but the thing is, Notre Dame. Now, let's say Penn State defeated Oregon. Notre Dame would have had the bye for the first round and playing in the second round in the quarterfinals, and um, Texas, or Notre Dame, I mean, because Texas is in my head. Notre Notre Dame, because they're not in a conference, they can't get a top 5 seed, or get one of the 5 automatic bids, or getting that first round bye. They end up with having to play 4 games, where and also having that bye week when the other teams are beating the crap out of each other in the conference championship game isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just that Penn State, they lost to Oregon in a tough game. Then they got to come back. They got, and I'm not going to lie, Penn State got a gimme game against SMU because December in State College is not fun in terms of weather. And I know that being in Philadelphia is not fun either, even though we're about 200 miles away from there. The weather can be very nasty up at State College this time of the year. And they caught an SMU team where I told you guys when I made that pick, you know, the weather's going to be a factor. SMU, they're going to be wishing that the game was at their house instead, where it wasn't as cold, but it was about 20 degrees. SMU didn't know what to do with themselves, and Penn State won. Plain simple. But um, the one thing is, it's like Franklin wants apples to be compared to apples and oranges compared to oranges, and not having to compare a conference with 9 games versus a conference with 8 conference games, and all that other stuff. So he made points there, but he also took a dig at Notre Dame. But so I'm going to make my pick here uh, for Silicon Valley Girls' request here, and I admit having these two teams play, it's like trying to pick between your worst enemy and your second worst enemy. But Notre Dame is a 1.5-point favorite. I'm going to show my screen here for a second because there we go. Go back over here. I'll add this. So Notre Dame's a 1.5-point favorite. Now, I already gave on the golf show before me because they were talking college football at the end of the show. I really love the over in that game. I really do. Over 40, it's 45.5 right now. If you are going to bet this game and you're going to bet the over under and you think it's going to be over, bet it now. If it's under, I would wait because at 115, maybe that gets down to 110, something like that. Now, I will tell you right now, and this is where, if you know how to read a board like this, I will tell you the chances of Penn State covering a 1.5-point spread and not winning the game is slim and none in college football. It's also slim and none in pro football, but the chances of Notre Dame covering and Penn State covering this game and Notre Dame winning 24-23 or any 1-point score is fairly slim. Now, if you like Penn State, don't go for the 1.5 there. Don't go for this because you're going to give the house a 12% VIG there. That's what that minus 112 means. Because in order to win $100, you have to wager 112. So that's what that number means. But that's just a guide. So if you're comfortable with $10, let's say, boom, you would get 1892 back. So you would it will figure things out for you here. So if you want to bet $10, boom, do it. Bet whatever you're comfortable with. Always bet within your means. I will tell you, and I say it all the time, bet within your means. Do not, don't get yourself into trouble here. And also, it's okay to skip games. It's okay to say, well, you know what? I don't like a side in this game, so I'm not going to touch this. But also know what these numbers mean and know the probability of like Penn State losing by 1 point and this hitting, but this not hitting the money line. Now, if you're going to bet this game and you're going to bet Penn State, your wise money is here, the money line. Because watch this. You're getting $19.80 on a $10 wager as opposed to this wager for $10 where you're only getting $18.92 back. So you're getting $8.92 back on a $10 wager, whereas on a money line wager for $10, you'll get $9.80 back. So one thing I will say is, if you know what these numbers mean, you're in great shape. So, but Notre Dame, they beat Indiana and they beat Georgia, and they were going to beat Georgia because of the fact that their starting quarterback hurt his elbow and he was done for the year. Penn State, they beat SMU, and then they beat Boise State. They shut down Ashton Gentry for the most part. I admit I've been waffling back and forth on this, and I don't know why. I want to take Notre Dame, but I get the feeling that Penn State, this is going to be my worst nightmare tomorrow night on social media after I'm done my show. I will be looking, and everybody's going to be saying Penn State, Penn State, Penn State. And, James Franklin usually does not win the big game, but, we're going to have an African American head coach in the college football playoffs for the first time. And, I just get the feeling it's going to be Penn State here, even though I've been trying to sell myself on Notre Dame here. We're going with Penn State minus 102 on the money line because let me tell you, I can see, you know, this plus 1.5. Why give the house 12%? Maximize your return with that because the money line wager will be the money line wager will be um, your best wager for tomorrow night. So, and that's the thing. It's all about making money, and if you lose, you lose. But um, but I would definitely say, watch the boards here. Keep track of everything, and uh, you know, let me just do one thing here. And Penn State is my pick at minus 102, and that will be my play for the Philly fade. So let me get out of here. Let me bring myself back here. So Penn State's my pick here, but that is such a tough game to choose from. And if I had somebody on the show, um, I would definitely say, um, that it's going to be a uh, if somebody was on the show and they said, "Oh, I like Notre Dame," I would not argue against you either because that's such a tough game to pick. But talk about a boring Natty championship if it is the Ohio State versus Penn State. I'm leaning Texas right now, but I won't make my official pick for that game until tomorrow night. Also, I did see today, and I wish I printed the article out, that there are contingency plans in place because the Dallas metro area is going to get, I think, 3 to 6 inches of snow. And some people in, like, for example, my area of the world, I don't know where you're at, Silicon Valley girl, but, in the Northeast, or God forbid, Green Bay, where they come to Philly this weekend, and I'll have a pick on that game tomorrow as well. You hear 3 to 6 inches, and we're laughing. It's like, it's a snowball fight, I mean, the kids are going to be off to school because, God forbid a snowflake falls nowadays, kid gets hurt, sue the school district and you're rich. But, um, but I really think that, um, I lost my train of thought there. Um, um, but, oh, I know Dallas weather. The thing is, and I know this from being in New Orleans and just the driver taking us back to the hotel years ago. He said, "You get a coating of snow in New Orleans, the city shuts down because of the fact that they don't have the ability, they don't have the equipment or the resources to clear the roads because of the fact that they're not used to getting snow and it's not usually in their climate." Dallas is the same way, even though you do have an occasional snowstorm there. But um, I know when the Super Bowl was in Dallas about 15 years ago, they had an ice storm there, and there was all kinds of problems leading up to the game. and that led to seating issues at the stadium as well. In that one area of the stadium where the sun comes in, that was all supposed to be um, temporary seating, which never got built because the workers couldn't get to the stadium. But um, there are contingency plans in place for the Cotton Bowl game because they're supposed to get 3 to 6 inches of snow from what I saw on my phone today. And if that's the case, I don't know how well equipped Dallas and the Dallas metro area can handle a snowstorm. Now, I'm sure if you go to like further north and west, like maybe Amarillo, maybe they can handle it a little bit better. But, the Dallas metro area, I doubt they can handle it. I'm sure the fans that are coming in from Ohio State, they'll be able to handle it. They just know drive slow, take your time, you'll get there eventually. I don't know about Austin with, how do they handle snow? And how will the fans handle the snow? Because it's not just, knowing how to drive in the snow, it's also how the public works or whatever the highway or roads commission handles the situation. And they're brining the roads, but you get a lot of snow, the brine just does nothing. But that's something to file away in the back of your mind um, for Friday night for that game. So if that game gets pushed back, you know why it's pushed back. It's because they can't, they couldn't handle all the snow that they're supposed to get. So, but but it'll be interesting to see what they do with uh, with the game tomorrow night in Miami, and also the game with on Friday night, Texas and Ohio State. I'm leaning Texas, but my official pick will not be made until tomorrow night at the end of that show. But and the one thing is, for those that are watching, um, I doubt it snows much in Austin. Yeah, yeah. I mean, but the thing is, you still get snowstorms. I mean, 2 years ago, Houston had a major ice storm and they had no power or anything for days. So, um, but the worst thing I guess the worst thing that could happen if they run the game, if they play the game, I guess they could play it in front of an empty arena, even though that would be, it will look horrible on TV, but I don't know. Just speculation by me. But so that's the college football pick for tomorrow. I'm taking Penn State. I'm torn between there and truthfully, like I say, bet within your means. 1-800 Gambler if you have a gambling problem and all that. One thing I will tell you guys is that's probably a game I would skip and just if I was at the sports book watching the game, um, I would probably just sit there and just watch the game and take it in for entertainment because you don't have to play every game. You might like a college basketball game. You might, like for example, tonight I would have told you guys to take UConn. Thank God I didn't because Villanova won. But it's all you just bet within your means and you pick your spots and bet what you're comfortable playing. Don't go crazy because you don't go crazy because oh I've won several $1,000s. I want to make it several $1,000s more. So let me put all this money on there. And next thing you know, you have nothing. Or you start chasing because you're losing left and right. Whereas me, I would tell you guys, at a certain point, stop. One thing I told my dad before he passed away, and I said it a couple of times to him, I was joking around. Um, I joked around and said to my dad, I said, yeah, I hit a 4 or 5 team I hit a 14 parlay and I won $600. He goes, "Oh, congratulations." I said, you would have been impressed with me if you were sitting here on the couch watching me play America's favorite game show. How the F do I get this money out of this account and into my bank account? And Silicon Valley Girl uh, is a horse racing person. So hopefully you will be around on Saturday morning, 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. And also, if you, also if that's too early for you, you know, check out my YouTube, which is at Joe Quills. You can go to Bleacher Brothers YouTube at Bleacher Brothers Official, um, or the Bleacher Brothers X at Bleacher Brother without the S. Save off the last S. Take off the last S for savings, as the 1-800 mattress commercial used to be. Um, you know, let's say you forget the show is there, but you know that I'm going to be looking at a certain racetrack. You can watch us talk about the races, and we do it every Saturday morning. And sometimes it's me solo, sometimes it's me and a guest, and we just have fun here. We go and look at some of the races of the day. Last week I took a major look um, into the road to the Kentucky Derby, and I should have gave AJ shit when he said that I don't give out winners on the show. Well, I have to give AJ one of these, even though he's not watching. I have to give AJ one of these because, damn it, I picked 2 out of the 3 winners in those 3 races I looked at. So, nah. But anyways, let's get on to some of the other topics here tonight. Uh, Thankfully, there's not a show after me, so if I run long, so be it. Um, yeah, the wildfire scene in LA is crazy right now, and I know it's even affecting families of some of my one of my coworkers at Redacted Company. I say redacted because there's a whole thing where, you know, try to keep my anonymity with where I work at, because if I mention something about the company, even though it does slip from time to time, I prefer not to mention my company because, if I say something that, you know, that offends somebody, next thing you know, I got a meeting with HR or my manager because, did you say this on your stream last night? I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, let's play this video. And they play. I'm like, well, it's out of context, but I did say it obviously, you know, but that's why I say redacted. So, since you're a first time viewer, Silicon Valley Girl, that's why I say redacted. It's just to protect myself because uh, about 7, 8 years ago, um, the Charlottesville riots that were going on, um, my redacted company sent out an email that said that we're investigating some people, some employees, because it appeared that they had a redacted company logo on their shirt. And, they're doing the riot thing. And, we have a code of conduct to follow, even though we're off the clock, but you're showing that you're a representative of redacted company. So that's why I always say redacted, because it's like my co-host on Monday, Mike understands that I'm protecting my job by saying redacted as much as I can. Even though some people that do know where I work at, if they really wanted to be really petty, I can think of other words too. They could go to HR or whatever and say, "This guy Joe, he says he works for your company, or I know he works for your company. I don't know what department. Oh, by the way, he said this last night," and you can go to twitch.tv/Joe Quills or go to his YouTube or go to Bleacher Brothers. You can find it at the 1 hour and 3 minute mark, and boom. I mean, I actually reported somebody for a Instagram post, but that's neither here nor there. But always protect the nest egg, as I call it. Because I have a good nest egg with the job that I have right now, and I may not have money at the moment, but I do have money that's going to be mine once I retire. So Yeah, I don't wish that on anybody. I know exactly what you mean. I got doxxed pretty bad on Instagram before. And the one thing is, I am very careful with some things I say. You know, a lot of my friends here on Bleacher Brothers, they don't care. But then again, they can kind of get away with it because, you know, I don't know what their standing is with their employers and things like that. But, you know, I'm not going to talk job. Rock and Reese, welcome in. He's one of our guys on with Bleacher Brothers. He does his shows with us as well, both on our platform here on YouTube and Twitch and everything. He also does his show. He also does a show on No Filter as well. Uh, I admit I miss the No Filter shows all the time, but I do moderate the NFL Aftermath show, which is Tuesdays at 2 o'clock Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific here on Twitch, Bleacher Brothers and X. So I moderate the Twitch stream that Bleacher Brothers has. I'm not on there tonight, but you know I do moderate that because you know every once in a while you get a spammer and you got to remove that stuff and ban them and stuff like that. So, but Rock and Reese is watching through YouTube. Welcome in. Uh, you know, check out his shows as well. Um, so, scary stuff in LA right now, and like I said, it affects a coworker, her family. She has family out there in the Pasadena area, and scary stuff out there. I've seen some of the pictures. I've seen some of the videos with some of the topics I saw here. First, let's talk about the NFL. Actually, this is the picture that came up here. That was a picture that ESPN posted. And I know Rock and Reese, I should be going with the Bleacher Brothers page, but this is ESPN. Their articles are more readable, but it is what it is. So the NFL is monitoring the wildfire situation there, and they could move that game to Arizona, which hasn't been the first time that they've done it. I uh, the Chargers had to play a Monday night game there when San Diego was having wildfire issues. Um, the NFL said they're monitoring the situation with a potential impact on Monday night's game between the Vikings and the Rams at SoFi Stadium. Uh, there is a contingency plan that involves moving the game to Arizona should the need arise. There's three major blazes burning in the LA area from the Pacific Coast inland to Pasadena, home of the famous Rose Parade and Rose Bowl. Um, at least 70,000 people were ordered to evacuate as of this article when it was posted. Um, now, the NFL did say tonight, the NFL said it's continuing to prepare for the game to be played at SoFi, but if it has to be moved, it will take place Monday night at State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona. So I don't know if they will have like uh, I don't know if they're going to have a field where there's no logos, or they'll put the Rams logos up there, you know, in the end zones at midfield or just midfield. But they're going to do something to make it look like it is the Rams home field, probably. Um, but you know, it's a scary thing out there, and it's even affecting some of the coaches on the Chargers as well. Um, Now, the league said in a statement, with all games, there are contingency plans in the event a change in location is needed. So this isn't something that they all of a sudden say, "Well, we gotta move it. Where are we going to move it? We're going to move to Vegas. We're going to move it to Arizona." It's like, okay, well, if something happens, we know we can move this here. Now, I would have thought Vegas would also be an option, but you know, you move it to Vegas, you don't necessarily need the grass field. You could probably play it on their turf field, because one thing that nobody really notices, but I notice all the time, and I know this especially from the PTSD I still have from Super Bowl 57, when the Eagles and the Chiefs played on that shitty field. Not shitty field in Queens, New York. The shitty field in Arizona at State Farm Stadium. Um, they had you had players sliding and slipping and sliding all over the place in that game. One thing I noticed on the Monday night, uh, the Monday night, the the Monday night event they had to kick off Super Bowl week. One thing I noticed, they had the artificial turf on the field for the Monday night Super Bowl Monday night, which I was like, that's interesting because let's say the field is not up to snuff, which it was. If the field is not up to snuff, they do have the option of going to the artificial turf because if they don't play if the Raiders are playing, they play on natural grass. But UNLV, in order to protect that natural grass, they play on turf. So that's something that I bet not many people realized. Um, but the Rams have said that no players or staff members have been affected by the fires. Um, the Rams are headquartered in Woodland Hills, a neighborhood about 13 miles north of the fire-ravaged Pacific Palisades area, but they're separated by the Santa Monica Mountains. Imagine that a 14-3 Vikings team have to travel away to play a playoff game with their record. Yeah, and I would not be upset if the NFL changed things up. I would not be upset if they changed things up and say, well, if you win the division, you still get in. And you still get that number 4 seed. However, since your opponent is 14-3, you got to play in Minnesota. Now, the one thing is, playing in Minnesota is not an option this year because, it's not written into the rules or collective bargaining or anything like that. However, you do have the contingency plan of playing in another stadium if something like a natural disaster like this occurs, like the fires. But I wouldn't be opposed to what the NBA used to do, where um, back when they seeded the division winners 1 and 2, and then 3 through 8, or 1, 2, and 3, and then the rest. If you had the better record, even though you're not a division winner, you got home court. So I wouldn't be opposed to keeping them as 1 through 4, but because Minnesota's 14-3, you have to play on the road. I wouldn't be opposed to that. Now, I would not be in favor of saying, let me pull up the NFL standings here just so I can get the right order here by the way I'm doing this here. So it'd be the Lions won, obviously, at 15-2. Now, if you do it the way that the NBA does it, it is possible. Now, the Eagles would have the number 2 record because the Eagles have the better strength of victory. So, I'm not in favor of that. Not because my Eagles are the number 2 seed, but I think that bumping up a team to number 3 because they went 14-3 and couldn't win their division because the other team was 15-2, that's an anomaly. That's not going to happen every year. But I wouldn't be opposed to flip flopping them and make the division winner play on the road. But I am opposed to just going 1 through 7. Doesn't matter what division, because I think the divisions are still worth something in the league. Even if you are 8-9, like Tampa Bay was a couple years ago with Tom Brady. Now the Chargers, they visit the Texans on Saturday. they have altered their practice schedule to limit players' playing time outdoors or practice time outdoors. Um, um, there we go. That's what it is. Okay. The air quality in the area varied Wednesday from 150 to 300. 150 is considered very unhealthy, according to uh, the 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 system that they use to measure air pollution. Air quality in Inglewood, where SoFi is located, was 281 Wednesday afternoon. Now, last year or the summer of 2023, I have to remember that's a year and a half ago now. The wildfires that were in Canada were blowing all the way down here to the northeast, and Philly had a couple of days where we were in the 300s and 400s because there was so much smoke coming. But yeah, it's definitely they're definitely looking into this, and they're going to make the right decision here. And the right decision is probably for the Rams to go to Arizona. But the Chargers are doing the right thing as well here, looking at everything with uh, trying to limit time on the field because you still have to get your practice in somehow. Um, Jim Harbaugh had the offensive and defensive units practice separately to limit their time on the field. Still, Justin Herbert and the rest of the quarterbacks are throwing passes to coaches during the defensive portion of practice. Um, uh, now, the Chargers, they're based out of El Segundo. They range from 170 to 200 on the air quality index. Um, they're trying to keep everybody safe, according to defensive coordinator Jesse Minter. Uh, keep everybody safe and healthy as much as possible, but they also have to get their preparation done. But Sanjay Lal, who's a wide receivers coach, he lives in Calabasas. He was affected by the fires. Offensive coordinator Greg Roman said that Lal had an intense night with the family dealing with power outages. Um, you know, but the wildfire season typically begins in June and July, runs through October, and but January wildfires are not unprecedented. So, but it's a scary thing out there in California right now. Let me see if I can find something here. Um, I must not have saved it. Okay, so I didn't save it on there. Let me just check one other thing here, make sure it's not on Facebook here. Um, uh, there was a story from Total Pro Sports that the Rose Bowl is in imminent danger because of all the fires. Um, no, I didn't say anything. Okay. Okay. Um, if worse comes worse, if I were the Chargers, I would have flown to Houston by Monday afternoon at worst. Well, the Chargers play Saturday afternoon because Houston gets um, their tradition unlike any other, the Saturday 4:30 wild card game. Um, but also you have to remember there's families here, and you got to be a family person as well. Um, I think I think they're going to try to get out as soon as possible. I also saw one thing on Instagram today that they also had somebody took a video from their airplane window, and you could see the Palisades fire and how massive it was as they were approaching LAX. Um, so it is out there, and it is a scary thing. And the one thing I wish I had saved was there was video that I saw on, I think it was X this morning. I don't even I wish I saved it because I would have shown it to you guys. But the LA Kings home game tonight against the Calgary Flames, that was postponed because of the massive wildfires still burning in the area. They were scheduled to play at obviously Crypto.com Center, the downtown arena. Lakers are scheduled to host the Charlotte Hornets in the same arena tomorrow night. I imagine that's going to get postponed as well. Um, the Kings said in a statement, "Our hearts are with the entire LA community. We appreciate the hardworking first responders and diligently working to contain the fire and protect our community. We appreciate the league's support in keeping our fans, staff, and players safe." King said their tickets will be good for the rescheduled date, which hasn't been set as of yet. And just to give you an idea here, there's three major fires burning. This is as of this afternoon. 70,000 people are under evacuation orders, and more than 1,000 structures have been destroyed. And I know my coworker's family, their church burnt down, and the one thing is you could always rebuild, but human life is so precious, and prayers to them. Also affected. Um, Now I'm looking to see if I can find this real quick. Um, all right, I'm going to share this because I'm going to mention Santa Anita, which is in Arcadia. Let me share here because this wasn't exactly what I saw, but this is from Ray Pollock on X. He's the creator and owner and of the Pollock Group. This is from the barn area here. You can see the fires. So that's that video. Oh, wait a second. Did I? I didn't even share my screen here like a dumbass. All right, so here's the video here. Hopefully you guys aren't hearing the same thing over again, but here's the video.
Well, I'm standing over by John Sadler's barn, looking up at Sierra Madre where I live, or used to, and it doesn't look good.
So that is that video there. Santa Anita released a statement as of this morning. I haven't seen a new statement here. There's no direct threat to Santa Anita Park from the wildfires to the north. The track continues to remain outside the voluntary evacuation zone. That was out as of this morning. Let me see if there's anything new there. Yeah, they're closed for simulcast tomorrow. And here's an amazing picture here that's Jordan Campo took from the stands area, and I don't know. I don't know what his connection with Santa Anita is, but there you can see the fires, and that's basically if you were to look around the final turn there at Santa Anita, or towards the hill for the hill course. That's well beyond it, but it's still scary. Still scary nonetheless. So, so you still have that as well. Santa Anita says, and this is from 12 hours ago, that it's not an imminent danger. That voice you heard was trainer John Sheriff's. This is the video I was talking about. And you're going from the first turn here where the sun was rising this morning, and you'll go from there to the final turn area, and you'll see how everything is just a cloud of smoke on the other half of the view here in a second. That is scary yet amazing at the same time. Um, Sophie Shore, who is a co-founder of the Nexus Racing Club. Her opinion is I would strongly recommend that any and all trainers at Santa Anita take up on this offer where they will move your horses off of the grounds for their safety, probably down towards San Diego, either to Del Mar or to San Luis Rey Downs, which is their training center out there. But the fires are in Altadena and Pasadena, which are adjacent cities, but they're not getting over the mountain there into the Arcadia area. Sustained winds. The sustained winds were. The fire still had zero containment as of late Wednesday morning. It was over 10,000 acres. Sustained high winds led to early cancellation of training on Tuesday. The pre-dawn images that I showed near hillsides near Santa Anita up in flames. And this is the statement that Sophie was mentioning about take Santa Anita up on this offer. While Santa Anita is not in any imminent danger, if you would like to voluntarily evacuate your horses, Santa Anita Park will pay for them to be located. Some of the areas that are under mandatory evacuation notices, are some of the communities north of Santa Anita Park, such parts of Arcadia, Bradbury, Duarte, La Cañada, Flint Ridge, Monrovia, and Sierra Madre, home of many people in Southern California racing. Santa Anita said it was offering food and beverages to people in the racing community who were evacuated from their homes. Trainer Val Brinkerhoff said that part of the roof on his barn was damaged, but his horses were not affected. The Altadena fire was detected late Tuesday afternoon. Santa Anita has been affected numerous times over the years by wildfires. Last was in 2020, a wildfire mountains north of Santa Anita led to cancellations of 2 days of racing because of smoke so severe that sunlight was noticeably reduced. Fires on nearby mountainside occurred in 93 and 2003 in the days before the Breeders' Cup was held at Santa Anita. 2017, a rapidly moving wildfire in northern San Diego County struck San Luis Rey Downs Training Center in Bonsall, California, destroying 8 barns and causing the deaths of 46 horses. So they've had an abnormally dry start to the rainy season in recent months, which is part of the La Nina, with rain totals far below recent winters. Training was held at Los Alamitos Wednesday morning, though the activity was light. They're about 40 miles south of Altadena and Pacific Palisades. I would imagine if they have the space at Los Alamitos, they will do that as well. But it's very scary with what's going on there in Southern California. And hopefully everybody will be okay out there. So they called up 7,000 California National Guards. Yeah, and I saw somebody mention today, and of course, I saw it on X, which is turned into a right-wing uh, political site, even though I use it for something totally different. At least I think it was on there. It might have been on my Facebook where I have some right-wing leaning people as well. But Facebook isn't as right-wing as what X has turned out to be. You do have somebody said that the mayor of Los Angeles, and if I'm wrong, then I will gladly retract the statement. Apparently, I think it was 17 million was cut from the city budget for the fire department. I think I would have rather kept that there and taken from somebody else, because you never know when something like this is going to happen. But like I said, if that number is off, and even if you're listening or watching after the fact, let me know I'm wrong. I will take constructive criticism. I am okay with that. As long as it isn't, oh, you're an a-hole. Well, why am I an a-hole? Because I admit I am one at times. But I will admit when I'm wrong, and I will retract the statement. But, that's, it's something I did see, but I haven't seen that. But I wish I had taken note of that and shared it, or took a screenshot of it so I can have it at my disposal here tonight. So let's get a little bit of a sorbet here from the LA stuff here. And question I have for you guys is, and I know this affected me as well here in Philadelphia, being an Eagles fan, where, well, Jalen Hurts, he was out with a concussion, but he wasn't going to play anyway, because if he didn't have a concussion, he wasn't going to play against the Giants last week, because of the fact that the Eagles had absolutely nothing to play for. Saquon Barkley didn't play as well, and some people were pissed that Kansas City got pissed because of the fact that a lot of Cincinnati Bengals fans and people that just hate the Kansas City Chiefs did not like that they just laid down for the Broncos and laid them into the playoffs by allowing them to win 38-0. But even with the Eagles, I was okay with Saquon Barkley sitting the final week, because it's not about records. It's about making sure you got the best chance to win the Super Bowl. And yes, I would love to see another parade in Philadelphia. And I might even play sick to go to it. So even though it'd be kind of hard with the fact that I was on vacation, I'm on vacation the week leading up to the Super Bowl. But so Travis Kelce wasn't having any talk of the Kansas City Chiefs starting many of their starters against the Broncos. And I'm going to play that segment of the New Heights podcast here for you. So let's play that here. And, feel free to chime in on this as well. So let me find it here. And the great thing about YouTube is that they segment the entire show here. So I found the segment here, and here you go.
Also clinched the number one seed in the AFC, resting their starters, or the majority of them, in week 18. Was there ever a chance you guys were going to play in the game? I don't know why I'm asking this.
Well, our offensive line started the first drive, and then we kind of
the whole offensive line started,
just about, except for
Tooney.
No, Tooney was out there.
The fuck? Why'd they do that?
Huh?
Why'd they do that? Oh, it's because they're Humphreys is back, and they wanted them to get like a.
I'm not sure why they did it. Listen, I'm not. I'm just. I'm just here.
Just
They might
letting
have.
you know
There
why
might have
that
been.
it happened.
Yeah, I was about to say. Yeah, no. I mean, either way, it doesn't fucking matter whether they played one snap or no snaps. We got our fucking asses kicked, and that wasn't a fun game to be a part of.
Well, there's some people alleging that it was a purposeful letting get your ass
I ain't
kicked.
scared of fucking nobody.
I'm not alleging this.
I wanted them in the fucking
I'm
playoffs.
not alleging this.
I want to slay every dragon one by one, like Mortal Kombat. I don't even want this to be like we play the lowest seed. Just give me the best teams.
I'm not, Travis. I'm just telling you what
AFC,
people are
NFC.
saying.
Give
I'm
me
not
all of
saying
them.
this.
Mortal
People-
Kombat style. I'll go
people
through
are
every
saying-
fucking one of them, just giving them my best fucking effort. I ain't
people
scared
were
of a single
saying
soul, man.
You didn't want to see the Bengals in Burrowhead or in Cincinnati.
I'll play them at the Walmart parking lot. I don't give a shit. We can have our own game in the off season where we really duke it out again. I love competing against the greatest. The Bengals were a fun ass fucking team to watch there towards the end of the season. And it's a shame they didn't make it in the playoffs because they would have made the playoffs that much fucking crazier and that much more fun.
Did you see they fired Lou Anarumo?
I don't know what the fuck is going on over there. That was a wild move I did not see coming because I thought that, from the outside, their defense was playing really fucking good towards the end of the year.
They definitely played better. I just think Lou, I don't think they had the horses on defense that they've had in the past. And Lou got handcuffed. I don't know that it made sense. He's proven how good of a D coordinator he is with good players, but whatever.
I'm with you, dude. I'm with you. I've always respected the hell out of him. I've also respected a lot of the players on that side of the ball, given who they had this year.
I mean, Burrow put up over like 4,000 something yards. Like it was something crazy. He had a great year. Chase and T.
That was one of the wackiest years of football I've ever seen from a team that I thought
It was crazy.
10 times better than what their record showed. And I know that just playing against them. But yeah, we didn't fucking throw any game. All right. Guys were out there competing their ass off, trying to get a win. Unfortunately, we just, we couldn't, put drives together. We couldn't stop Denver. And it just, it wasn't a fun game to be a part of. And I'm just sitting here on the sideline like, hey boys, don't let this shit ruin our fucking mojo. When we got everybody rolling and it's go time. We got to flip that switch and know we're the biggest, baddest team out there.
Well, I mean, you guys went 15-1, so you guys technically are the biggest, baddest team in the NFL record-wise. 15. Oh yeah, I forgot. So now you are tied with Detroit. 92%ers.
Okay, so that was from the New Heights podcast here. And welcome in, SJ. Let me get rid of that. Get rid of that. There we go. So welcome in, SJ. And Rocket Reese on YouTube says it was damned that they do, damned that they don't. Do you think the Chiefs wanted 3 AFC West teams in the playoffs? No, I agree. And Oakland, the Las Vegas Raiders didn't want 3 teams in there. That's part of the reason, one of the many reasons why Antonio Pierce got fired. But, you heard what Travis Kelce had to say there in New Heights podcast, and hopefully I don't get dinged for that. And if I do, so be it. Not the, but he had some good points there. Give me all of them, Mortal Kombat style. I don't care. And the thing is, and I said it with Saquon Barkley. I said it with Jalen Hurts. It isn't about records. Even though it would have been nice to be the first team to go 16-1 in this new 17-game schedule that's been around for 4 or 5 years. Nobody thought about that. But then again, especially a team that has a chance to do something that hasn't been done in the Super Bowl era, and I think let me just check one thing because I'm pretty sure. Now technically, The last team to win 3 championships in a row is the Green Bay Packers. They won 2 championship games. The NFL championship game pre-Super Bowl era. They won an NFL championship against the Dallas Cowboys in the Ice Bowl. And then they went on to win the Super Bowl 2 weeks later. But that's the last time a team has won 3 years in a row. And some teams it's nice, and even Washington, which they could have decided, oh, we're just going to lay down and play dead and end up with the 7th seed and play the Eagles, or you can play balls to the wall like Green Bay did, and Jordan Love has an elbow injury, and Christian Watson tore his ACL and he's done for the year. It's like Rock and Reese said, damned if you do, damned if you don't. And I'm okay with, for example, my Eagles decision of sitting players because it isn't about the final game of the regular season. It's not about records. It's about winning championships. Kansas City, obviously, it's about winning a 3rd championship in a row, something that hasn't been done since the Green Bay Packers pre-Super Bowl. So, and that's part of the reason why I don't like the way that the NFL has set up their schedule where you play a division rival in the final week of the season. Personally, I would say anybody in the conference. So if it happened that Kansas City had to play Cincinnati in week 18, yeah, that would have been interesting. But I think Travis does have great points there because if you think about it, even for me and a Philly standpoint, we had nothing to play for. The Lions and the Vikings, they definitely had something to play for. They had to play for the number 1 seed. And, now Minnesota, they lost and they end up playing a Rams team, which I'm going to say right now, I think the Rams should have played their starters because guess what? Would you have rather been the 3 seed and end up playing Washington? Okay. Would you have rather been that, or do you want to play the 14-3 team? Now, granted, let's say the Rams somehow make it to the Super Bowl. Let's say they run the gauntlet. They beat Minnesota, they beat Philly, they beat Detroit. Let's say they do that. No one's going to care what they did last Sunday. But the thing is, they still had something to play for. They chose not to. That's the problem I have. And I said it, I think I may have said it on SJ's Discord or whatever. I said, I don't know why the Rams are 7-point dogs or 7.5. And I had problems with them sitting when it became official on Sunday. I had all kinds of problems with that. Now, when you have nothing to play for and you're trying to protect your star players, that's when there's nothing to play for, I have no problem with that. Now, does it suck that you're Cincinnati and you're sitting at home when you were the most dangerous team? Yeah, it does suck. But guess what? You shouldn't have gone 4-8 in the first 12 games. Your defense shouldn't have been shit. And you shouldn't have been a team that scored 35 points and still lost 38-35 3 different times or whatever it was. But that's why their defensive coordinator's gone, because the first 12 games, they played like total shit. The Eagles won there in Cincinnati for the first time ever. But I really think that it's not because they don't want to see Cincinnati. When you have a team like the Kansas City Chiefs, you don't care who you play. You could play the Detroit Lions in the first round. I don't think they care. I don't think the Lions would care either. But guess what? The Lions had to play a tough game, which they made look easy because Sam Darnold came up very small. And, we remember that saying when he was with the Jets, when he said that he was seeing ghosts. Well, because Detroit was wearing their black alternate uniforms, he was seeing shadows last week. And I don't know what the equivalent would be for the Rams wearing blue uniforms if they wear their blue. But whatever it is, he may be seeing that on Monday night. But I'll tell you I don't have a problem with what Kansas City did. And who knows? Maybe maybe if they did start all their players, that's the case here. Um, yeah. And Jalen Jackson on YouTube. First of all, welcome in. I don't think the DC from the Bengals would have been better defensively if they had some quality players since the Bengals are pretty cheap. I know the Bengals are cheap, trust me, because I've seen it because they have there have been complaints about uh, their practice facilities and everything like that. So, um, but the thing is, when you're paying your quarterback 50 or 60 million, you got to figure out you well actually um, you franchise tag T Higgins. You got to figure out how you're going to pay Jamar Chase to fit the salary cap, and also figuring things out with different things. There are going to be situations where sometimes you just can't do everything you want to do. And if you're building your offense, obviously it's the defense that takes the hit here. So, I mean, yeah, the Bengals, they do trend towards cheapness, but I think also it's also an opportunity to pull in some guys who, may not be those top-notch guys. Like let's take my Eagles for example. Quinyon Mitchell first round, Cooper DeJean in the second round. Eagles got very lucky, and you can get very lucky in the draft, even in the later rounds. But I understand what Jalen's saying here, and welcome again, once again. I would definitely say that um, the defense wasn't what it had been in past years, but I think if there's a scapegoat for the defense being pretty bad, um, they, I understand why they let him go because you have to have a scapegoat, and he's the scapegoat. Um, do the Eagles rely heavily on analytics? Um, um, Truthfully, I really don't know what they do with the draft itself. I'm sure that they have an analytical formula that they use, but they were looking into Quinyon Mitchell, and everybody above them kept looking for offensive players, wide receivers, quarterbacks, whatever. And Quinyon Mitchell was very high on their draft board. Now, how they analyze, I don't know, but fit into a specific need that they had, the secondary, boom, he dropped right to him, and the Eagles couldn't draft him fast enough. So, I mean, I don't have a problem with the off-topic question because in a way, it does fit into the way that I'm driving your other comment there about the Bengals, and also with Travis Kelce. I don't have a problem with, I mean, coaches get scapegoated all the time. Um, when you're in coaching, you're hired to get fired, especially in the pros. So that is the case there. So, um, but I don't have a problem with certain teams, you know, resting starters because, especially with the way that the format of the playoffs are now, where 7 teams are in each conference and only one team gets to bye, you know, you have to. I mean, and also Andy Reid, as well as he does after the bye week, the one thing you have to remember is Andy Reid has had a bye in the playoffs so many times that he knows how to handle this to a T. So, would it have been nice that he did go? Would it have been nice that they went 16-1? Yeah. Now, if they had been 16-0, that would have been interesting. But you gotta look long term. You just can't look at 1 week. And the Eagles were looking long term. Kansas City was looking long term. The Rams were looking long term, even though I still feel like they had something to play for, even though they felt like they didn't need to. Probably they didn't think that. I don't know what they were thinking. I think they were thinking, "Oh, we'll play the Rams again. We don't care." I guess that's what they were thinking. They end up with Minnesota. It's like, well, we beat Minnesota earlier in the year, but it was that that face mask that wasn't called on that safety. But you got a lot of things that are going on there. So, uh, but but tomorrow night I will give my NFL picks. I will also give my Cotton Bowl pick as well for tomorrow night. And just to let you guys know, I did give out my Philly Fade pick for tonight. That's the segment that I have here. And truthfully, if I was betting this game, I wouldn't bet this game. But since it is a big game, I want to give you a pick. I'm going Penn State money line minus 102. If you like Penn State, why take the plus 1.5 points at minus 112? Because why give the book 12% of your money where you can get them at plus 102? Because the chances of Penn State losing that game by 1 point, whether it is 24-23, 27-26, 28-27, the chances of it being a 1 point game are that small. So if you know how to read a board, read a sportsbook board, which I kind of do. I mean, I'm not perfect at it, but um, I will say this: we will, why, whenever you wager, maximize that money. Know that you're like Jalen says here, slim margins. you know, and I will tell you, maximize your money. And that's what the Philly Fade segment is here for. So that, sometimes I can say, well, guess what? The chances of this are small. So why waste the money here when you can bet it here? And if it wins, you'll get more money from it. But the chances of you winning the 1.5 plus 1.5 and losing the money line wager is pretty slim. So, why not go with the money there. So, but and also, um, just to let you guys know, I do have a horse racing show on Saturday mornings with Bleacher Brothers. It's called Also Eligible, and every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific, we take a look at some of the races around the country. Last week we looked at 3 of the Kentucky Derby prep races. I went 2 for 3. I should have gave AJ shit, but my mind. I think I was working when he made that comment, um, but yeah, I went 2 for 3. Don't know what we're doing this week. There isn't any Kentucky Derby prep races. Might look at Gulfstream because um, I need to get the commercial if AJ will give it to me because I announced on Monday night. Actually, I announced it on Saturday on Also Eligible. Also Eligible will be on the road in 2 weeks, actually in 2.5 weeks. January 25th, we will be live from Gulfstream Park for the Pegasus World Cup. And I'm excited for this. I get to escape the cold weather here in Philly for warmer weather in South Florida. Uh, the Pegasus World Cup is They have 3 championship races that they have, which they bring in some of the top horses from around the country and even the world. The Pegasus World Cup is a $3 million race. The turf race, one of the turf race, I think the turf races are 2 million. I don't know them off the top of my head here, but I can check that for you here. Stake schedule here. Um, the World Cup Invitational is 3 million. The World Cup Turf event, the Turf Invitational is $1 million, and the Pegasus Philly and Mare Turf Invitational is $500,000. But we'll be looking at the whole race card on Saturday. It's all day, and not only will be live for also eligible, we will also be streaming live from 12 to 6 on the Bleacher Brothers channel. So we'll have a crazy afternoon. All the guys will be there. AJ, Frank, Chef Tom. I think Jeff DeForest is going to be there as well. He's going to be doing some man about the track stuff with us, and we're going to have fun. And um, I know I'm making that 3 hour and 20-minute drive. Yeah, and if you, I don't know how the setup is going to be yet. I probably won't know till I get there the day of, but we'll all be there. We'll have some fun with you guys, and you know, have some fun with that. So I'm excited to get to see a new racetrack because you know my racetrack is Parks Racing here. It's just north of me in Salem, Pennsylvania. I usually go there. Sometimes I go to Delaware Park. I did go to Emerald Downs for the second time this past May. Got to go there on what was basically winter to me because it was 90 degrees here, but it was 50 in Seattle that day. But I do get to go to a track every now and then, and I'm excited to hit Gulfstream in 2 weeks. So, but we will definitely be streaming live from 12 to 6. We'll see about also eligible as well. So check us out that day as well. So just some things I want to touch base on here. Rumors are flying that Bill Belichick may still end up in the NFL next year. This is I found on Yahoo Sports, and this is from Nick Bromberg, who's a senior writer for Yahoo Sports. What we may be about to find out how committed Bill Belichick is to coaching at North Carolina next season, because according to NFL Network, multiple NFL teams have approached Belichick about their coaching vacancies. One of those teams is the Las Vegas Raiders, where Tom Brady is a minority owner. Well, I thought that Bill Belichick and Tom Brady weren't buddy buddy or anything like that. But then again, boss 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 and associate type relationship like that, they're not supposed to be buddy buddy. But and Bill Belichick is an old curmudgeon. We'll see um, how much he wants to go back to the NFL. But it does say here Belichick has been Brady has been in touch with Belichick recently as the Raiders weighed the future of the head coach Antonio Pierce, who was fired on Tuesday. Um, Brady and Belichick won 6 Super Bowls, as you all know, with the Patriots. Sources say Brady believes the situation in Las Vegas requires a coach of Belichick's expertise and stature to establish a sustainable winning program. Um, but the thing is, Belichick accepted that job at North Carolina, and if you watch the Pat McAfee show, he actually did an interview with Pat McAfee from his car where he was recruiting with his son sitting shotgun. So, but he became the head coach in North Carolina in December. He was photographed making recruiting visits to high school prospects in recent weeks. Now, he's the second NFL coach to become a college coach after winning the Super Bowl. The first, Bill Walsh. He got called back to Stanford after he won 4 Super Bowls with the Niners. But here's the way Belichick's contract is written. If he were to leave before next summer, there's a $10 million buyout in his contract. So whoever were to hire him in this NFL cycle, they would have to pay $10 million. Now, once summer 2025 comes around, that drops to $1 million. So, um, now an NFL team looking to hire him this offseason certainly wouldn't want to wait until the buyout drops or would need to pay the full amount, barring a negotiation of some sort. Um, the Bears, Jaguars, Jets, Patriots, and Saints have had coaching vacancies right now, along with the Raiders. But I think we can rule out Belichick going to New England. And I think personally that best thing for the Patriots is to get somebody who has zero ties with Bill Belichick. That's why I say that Mike Vrabel, I would not hire him in New England. Why would the Raiders go with Coach Bill if they fail with the former Patriot coach Josh McDaniels? I think the one thing is, um, and if you're watching on Twitch or X, you can also chime in as well. Um, I would say that it's the teacher and the student type of thing, and the one thing is with Belichick, um, he may not have been a great teacher to his assistants, or they didn't catch the story. Like some coaching trees, you have numerous champions. Um, for example, the Andy Reid tree. He has John Harbaugh, and he has Doug Peterson. Even though I still think that Doug Peterson is the flukiest head coach to win a championship in Philadelphia sports history, and that's saying a lot considering how I feel about Charlie Manuel. But I think that you have some coaching trees where the head coaches do their thing, and it's like, man, I wish I was on the Andy Reid tree or the Bill Walsh tree. So many assistant coaches went to Super Bowls and won Super Bowls. Mike Holmgren, Andy Reid, and there's a few others as well. But some coaching trees you do well, and some, for some reason, it's you just scratch your head because nobody has really done well other than Mike Vrabel. And Mike Vrabel, you know, he was doing well in Tennessee, but he, but there was all this internal things with the general manager. He got fired, and Vrabel got fired, and it wasn't a winnable situation when he got fired, and it's even worse now with the new head coach. But I think that it's kind of like horse racing. You can look at this and you say that such sire, um, let's go with Curlin, for example, because like when there's a sloppy track and I see Curlin as the sire, I play that horse to win. Now, if you know breeding, and I don't know all breeding, so things slip through the cracks when I want to bet something that's bet on. You got horses that are bred for going long, but they can't get more than a mile. They will never get that Kentucky Derby distance of a mile and a quarter, even if it is the Breeders' Cup Classic. If it's the Travers, if it's the Belmont this year, because they'll still be at Saratoga. You get the idea. It's just that you can look at the tree, or um, you can look at everything like that. I don't think that you could actually, um, until you get that horse on the track, you don't know what's going to happen. Like, for example, I touted this horse as a horse that would get beat a couple weeks ago because I said that this sire never ran well over a mile. Well, the horse won at a mile and his his daughter wanted a mile and eighth. So I was like, oh well, there goes that theory. But good question here from Silicon Valley Girl on Twitch. Do you ever think Pete Carroll will go back to college and coach? I think he wants to stay in the NFL because he has said he wants to go back into coaching. He wants to coach in the NFL, and he has said that he wants to go back in the NFL, and he is interested in the Bears job. Now, whether he gets that job or not, it's another thing. And Pete Carroll, he may be 73, 74 years old. He would run circles around me, and I am much younger than Pete Carroll. I'm not going to give you out my age. SJ knows my age, but that's only because we talked about that. But and there you go. Oh God, Pete Carroll. But Pete Carroll would run circles around me, and you know, I don't think Pete Carroll would go back to college. I think that he's been in the NFL long enough that, and also winning that Super Bowl with Seattle. I think also he has a vendetta with Seattle that they told him that he was no longer going to be the coach when he still wanted to coach with Seattle. I think he has a vendetta. He wants to prove something that he can still coach for a couple more years before he decides to hang up that whistle and clipboard and everything. But you know, but but I really think that if he comes back, it's the NFL. It's not the college. And if he wanted to coach college, he would have been signed somewhere by now. Because obviously now you're in the recruiting season. That's why that's why we have the transfer portal. That's why we have so many people opting out of playing bowl games and going into the transfer portal because I don't want to play here anymore because you're not playing me enough or anything like that, or this school is offering me $1 million more to play there, stuff like that. I don't think Pete Carroll wants to deal with that. I don't think he wants to deal with college. I think he's fine within the pros, and I think if he goes anywhere, he'll probably go to Chicago. I think he has. I think he wants to prove something that he can still coach for a couple more years and stick it to Seattle once or twice if the schedules align. So, but yeah, so I mean, I understand SJ's point there. Oh God, Pete Carroll, and I understand the question about uh, going back to college and coaching. But if with everything that the way that the college football cycle goes, unless um, unless a college coach ends up going pro, you won't see a college open up until next fall when some of the bottom feeder schools or some of the schools that are very disappointing end up going and firing their coaches. And it's also about the buyouts and everything else. So, but um, but it will be interesting to see what happens with all that here. So let me just see this clicker here just to make sure I have everything ready to go here. Um, so let's see. Penn State talking trash. That was about um, that was a dig at Notre Dame being an independent, and James Franklin saying that was something he was more worried about the um, Penn State being in the Big East and stuff like that. I gave you the pick of Penn State. Usually I do it at the end, but Silicon Valley Girl asked what my pick was, so I gave it to her early. Um, um, and we go back over here. Let's see. I'm just making sure I have everything covered here before we call it a night here. So thankfully, I don't have a hard out like I will have in a couple of weeks here when the Bleacher Brothers Sports Network goes live online with the apps on Actually, it is available now. Let's see. So we talked about the fires affecting LA sports and also affecting even coworkers at Redacted Company that I work at. Travis Kelce, that's when SJ walked in here. Bengals not making the playoffs. Belichick, Penn State, Philly Phade. Okay, so we have done everything here. And Jalen, thank you very much for joining me here tonight on YouTube. Thank you so much for joining me, and I do appreciate that. Try to be a little formative, joke around a little bit, have some fun with you guys, and this was a great night because we had Silicon Valley Girl joining us tonight. Do appreciate her following me tonight. SJ, one of my mods here, I do appreciate her. I appreciate her much more than just streaming. I appreciate her for being someone I can lean on many different ways here and do appreciate everybody. And a lot of times when we're on Twitch, um, um, now SJ has me doing it. All right, it probably got turned. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, so yeah, I do have some alerts that are set up here. I probably don't have Streamlabs probably got turned off here, and SJ can help me probably this weekend because I am off this weekend. SJ, wink, wink. Um, and also, um, there you go, SJ spamming, and I don't mind. I have no problem with her doing that. I will not ban her for doing that because she's being productive with that. But you can catch me every Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, 9 p.m. right here on the Bleacher Brothers YouTube, Bleacher Brothers X, my YouTube, and my Twitch. I think I'm going to expand that in a couple of months once I get my tax refund. So, but for now, that's how we're going to do things here. Just to let you know as well, Saturday, also eligible. We're also going to be live at Gulfstream Park. So if you're watching and you're in the area, I don't know how things are going to be like entrance, how much to get in or anything like that. But you know, and even if you can't make it, we'll be live on the Bleacher Brothers channels for 6 straight hours, and I think we'll have a count to see how many times I have to pee. So, but anyways, usually if we're on YouTube, if we're on Twitch, I'll raid out to somebody. But tonight we won't, only because I don't have any. I don't think anybody's on there that's worth. Well, if SJ was streaming, she would get the raid no matter what. But anyway, so that is it for now. I do appreciate everybody. SJ, um, Silicon Valley Girl, um, uh, Jalen, and everybody who was watching and was lurking around and watching and not participating because I shouldn't say not participating, but you were participating. You were still listening. So that's a good thing. So do appreciate everybody. And we'll do it live tomorrow in about 21 hours at 9 p.m. Eastern. I'll have my picks for the weekend. Go Birds. And also, uh, you know, go. Well, I had to pick Penn State, but usually I would say go Notre Dame, but I'm going to be giving Penn State people shit anyway, even though I did pick Penn State there. So, and also subscribe to the audio podcast of Joe Quill Show wherever you get podcasts, especially in Apple Podcasts, and give me 5 stars as well. Because if you miss a show, you can always listen to it. So I give you so many different options. So do appreciate everybody. We'll do it live in 21 hours. Have a great night, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. This is the Joe Quills Show. I'm Joe Quills, and I will see you in the winner circle. Good night, everybody.